Emily Carter stared at her apartment ceiling at 5 a.m., another sleepless night ticking by. 26 years old with a degree in administrative assistance, and here she was, unemployed for the third month straight after the local libraries. Budget cuts. The rent was due next week. Her savings were evaporating, and the crushing weight of 37 rejection emails sat heavy in her inbox. Each one began with the same hollow phrase, "We regret to inform you," until the words had lost all meaning, blurring into a single message: "You're not good enough." The soft glow of her phone illuminated a small photograph taped to her bedside table. Emily with her parents at her college graduation, their proud smiles captured forever. "So you've made the practical choice," her father had said that day. "Administrative work will always be in demand." Now those words echoed with cruel irony as Emily refreshed her email, hoping for any response from the dozen applications she'd sent yesterday. "Just one more application," she whispered to herself, fingers hovering over her laptop keyboard. The blue light illuminated her small studio apartment, casting shadows across walls covered with illustrations she'd drawn as a child, dreams of becoming an artist long abandoned for what her parents called practical choices. Her favorite drawing hung beside her desk, a watercolor of a young girl standing at the edge of a forest, peering into the darkness with a lantern. She'd titled it Courage when she was 12. The irony wasn't lost on her now. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate, Rachel. "Any luck today?" Emily didn't answer. Rachel had already offered to cover her portion of next month's rent, and Emily couldn't bear the thought of accepting more charity. New Jersey sprawled outside her window, a city that never seemed to sleep, filled with ambitious people racing toward success. Emily had always felt out of place here, too quiet for networking events, too thoughtful for quick corporate decisions, too introverted for the constant performance modern careers seemed to demand. At networking events, she'd stand in corners, watching others exchange business cards and hollow promises, while she clutched her single cup of sparkling water like a shield. She scrolled through job listings, eyes blurring with fatigue. Administrative Assistant Floor 3, Westbridge Holdings. Perfect. An entry-level position at a respectable company. She clicked the application link, uploaded her resume, and hit send. Only later, checking her sent emails, did Emily notice her mistake. She hadn't applied to the administrative pool on the third floor. She'd somehow sent her application directly to the executive assistant position in the CEO's office on the 30th floor. No, she gasped, frantically searching for a way to retract the application. Too late. Even more shocking. The next morning, her phone rang. "Ms. Carter. This is Jessica Wong from Westbridge Holdings. Mr. Cross would like to interview you tomorrow at 9 a.m. Emily froze. "Mr. Cross." William Cross. The CEO. Emily knew the name. Everyone in New Jersey's business world did. William Cross, 38, had transformed Westbridge Holdings from a middling investment firm to a financial powerhouse. Business magazines called him the Glacier, brilliant but cold, demanding nothing short of perfection, with a reputation for cycling through assistants who couldn't meet his exacting standards. And tomorrow, she was interviewing with him for a job she never meant to apply for. For a role she was hopelessly unqualified to fill. The Westbridge building towered over the financial district, all glass and steel stretching toward the clouds. Emily's reflection in the elevator doors showed a young woman attempting professionalism, navy, blazer borrowed from a friend, hair pulled back, hands clutching a portfolio, but her eyes betrayed terror. The elevator opened directly into a minimalist reception area. A polished receptionist looked up. "Ms. Carter, Mr. Cross is waiting." Emily was led down a long hallway into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. William Cross stood with his back to her, gazing outward, shoulders straight under an impeccably tailored suit. "Ms. Carter, we sit." He didn't turn around. Emily perched on the edge of a chair, heart hammering. When William finally faced her, his expression was unreadable. Tall, with dark hair graying slightly at the temples, his most striking features were his eyes. Piercing blue, analyzing, calculating. My executive assistant quit yesterday. No notice. I have meetings with Tokyo next week and Dubai the week after. HR says finding a permanent replacement will take a month. His voice was clipped, precise. Your resume indicates experience in administrative work, though not at this level. Emily opened her mouth to explain her mistake, but he continued. I need someone temporarily, so 2 weeks, possibly 3. You'll manage my calendar, prepare briefing materials, handle correspondence. The hours are long. The work is demanding. You'll be expected to anticipate needs before they arise. He checked his watch. Can you start today? Emily's mind raced. She needed income. This position even temporarily paid 3 times what she'd made at the library. But the intensity of this man, this environment. I should mention, sir, that I actually intended to apply for... Ms. Carter, I have a board meeting in 20 minutes. Your answer? Emily swallowed. Yes. I can start today. Good. Jessica will handle paperwork and show you. Your desk. As William Cross strode from the room, Emily realized she'd just stepped through the wrong door into a world she never intended to enter. Emily's first week passed in a blur of panic, mistakes and recoveries. She arrived at 7 a.m. and rarely left before 8 p.m. She organized William's chaotic schedule, prepared meeting briefs, screened calls, and slowly, painfully, began learning the rhythms of Westbridge Holdings. Her first morning, she discovered that William required his coffee exactly 14 minutes before each meeting, not too hot, not too cold, with precisely half a teaspoon of sugar. His calendar needed color coding. By priority level, his briefing documents had to be arranged in a specific order, with the most crucial information highlighted in blue, never yellow or orange. Details matter here, Miss Carter, he told her sharply when she arranged his files alphabetically, instead of by project phase. If you can't manage them, perhaps this isn't the right environment for you. She wasn't good at the job, not at first. She spilled coffee during her second day, scheduled overlapping appointments on her third, and nearly sent confidential information to the wrong recipient on her fourth. Each night she returned to her apartment and collapsed into tears, certain the next day would be her last at Westbridge. But she was meticulous, thorough, and she listened, really listened, to everything happening around her. By her 5th day, Emily noticed patterns. The marketing director always touched his wedding ring when lying about campaign results. The CFO's assistant avoided eye contact with anyone from legal services. The head of acquisitions spoke louder whenever her proposals were weakest. Emily recorded these observations in a small notebook, not for any strategic purpose, but because noticing details was how she'd always navigated the world. As someone who rarely spoke unless spoken to, she'd become skilled at reading what remained unsaid. William Cross was the hardest to read. He moved through the office like a contained storm, focused, intense, isolated, even in crowded rooms. People performed around him, becoming louder, more assertive, more competitive, as if his presence triggered some primal need to be noticed. Emily did the opposite. She stayed quiet, efficient, invisible. She kept his office immaculate, anticipated his needs for documents or information, and never engaged in the office politics swirling around them. One evening, as the office emptied, Emily placed a stack of reports on William's desk. He looked up, seeming surprised to see someone still there. The setting sun cast long shadows through the windows, painting the office in shades of amber and gold. You don't speak much, he observed, studying her with those penetrating blue eyes. Emily smoothed her skirt nervously, still not entirely comfortable under his direct attention. Only when I have something to say, sir. A barely perceptible nod. Refreshing. He gestured to the reports. Everyone in this building is desperate to fill silence with noise, as if constant talking proves their value. He tapped the stack of documents. You've reorganized these by risk assessment rather than projected returns. Emily tensed. I thought it might be more practical for tomorrow's meeting. William flipped through the pages, his expression unreadable. It is. He glanced up at her. How did you know that's what I needed? I listened yesterday. When you were on the phone with Mr. Donovan, you mentioned evaluating risk factors first. She took a small step back. I can change them back if you'd prefer. No, William said, something like curiosity flickering across his features. This is exactly what I needed. The following Monday, William emerged from a particularly tense meeting with his senior leadership team. His jaw was tight, shoulders rigid. Come in, he called when Emily knocked. Close the door. She stood waiting, notebook ready. What did you observe in that meeting? Emily hesitated. Sir, you were taking notes, not just about the agenda, about the people. She shifted uncomfortably. I just notice things sometimes, and William leaned back in his chair. Tell me what you noticed. Emily took a deep breath. Mr. Donovan was defensive about the Robinson acquisition, but not because of the financials. He kept mentioning being left out of discussions. Mizzy Patel was supporting him, though last week she opposed his position. They arrived together this morning and both had coffee from the cafe across town, not our building. William's expression changed slightly. Go on, Mr. Abernathy checked his phone 18 times, always after Mr. Richard spoke. They're communicating about something they don't want discussed openly. And you... She stopped herself. And I... Emily looked down. You already knew the acquisition numbers wouldn't match projections. You were testing to see who would admit it first. For the first time since she'd started working there, William Cross looked genuinely surprised. How long have you been observing people like this? All my life, sir. When you don't speak much, you notice more. William studied her for a long moment. My next meeting is in 15 minutes. Join me. This became their new pattern. Emily would sit silently in the corner during William's meetings, taking notes not just on content, but on dynamics. Afterward, alone in his office, she would share her observations. Which executives were forming alliances, who was withholding information, what undercurrents were steering conversations. William never told Emily why her perspective mattered. To him, but 2 weeks stretched into a month, then 2. HR mentioned finding permanent candidates, but William dismissed them all. Emily's quiet observations are becoming her hidden superpower in William's high-pressure world. Have you ever discovered that something you thought was a weakness turned out to be your greatest strength? Share your story below. And if you're curious to see how Emily's unique perspective will change everything at Westbridge, hit that like button and subscribe to catch the rest of this journey. The most pivotal moment is just ahead. On a rainy Tuesday evening, Emily was gathering her things to leave when William called her into his office. The room was dark except for his desk lamp and the city lights glittering beyond the windows. Sit, he said, but differently than usual. Less command, more invitation. Emily noticed an open bottle of scotch and 2 glasses on his desk. I'm not going to finish those quarterly projections tonight, he said, sliding a glass toward her. Tell me something instead. Sir, why illustration? Your resume mentioned a background in art before administrative work. Emily blinked, surprised he'd retained that detail from her file. I've always found it easier to express things through images than words, she answered carefully. When I was young, I would draw stories I couldn't tell. William nodded. And why did you stop? The question was unexpected, personal in a way their interactions had never been. Practicality, she answered honestly. My parents worried about stability. Administrative work promised regular income. And has it delivered that stability? Emily thought about her 3 months of unemployment before Westbridge. Not exactly. William swirled his scotch, looking out at the rain-streaked windows. Do you know why I value your observations, Emily? It was the first time he'd used her first name. Everyone here tells me what they think I want to hear. They compete for attention, for approval. But their performances, they're just noise. You see through it because you're not performing. He took a long breath. I haven't always been the glacier, you know. Emily watched him, seeing something soften in his face. 8 years ago, I trusted the wrong people, made decisions based on relationships rather than data, nearly bankrupted this company. When I rebuilt it, I swore I'd never let emotions cloud my judgment again. He glanced at her. But removing emotion entirely, it distances you from what matters. That evening marked a shift. Their late-night conversations became regular occurrences. William would share the weight of leadership, the isolation, the constant pressure to project certainty even when uncertain. Emily, gradually finding her voice, would offer perspectives from her vantage point at the edges of his world. The research team doesn't need more resources, she told him once. They need acknowledgement. 3 breakthroughs this quarter. And you've never visited their floor. William frowned. That's Davis's responsibility as department head. With respect, sir, your attention carries different weight. The next day, William spent an hour in the research department. The following week, productivity increased by 20%. 3 months into what was supposed to be a 2-week assignment, Emily's position was officially changed to Executive Strategic Advisor, a title created specifically for her. The salary tripled, but more meaningful was the recognition. Her perspective mattered. William began bringing her to client meetings, valuing her ability to read situations he couldn't. She remained quiet in these settings, but would later decode unspoken concerns or hesitations clients hadn't verbalized. After a particularly successful negotiation with a hesitant investor from Singapore, William poured 2 glasses of scotch in his office as evening fell over the city. "That was remarkable today," he said, handing her a glass. "I was about to walk away from the deal when you slipped me that note." Emily looked down at her. "Drink." "I just noticed how he kept touching his wedding band whenever you mentioned the 5-year projections, which made me realize he was worried about long-term security, not immediate returns." William raised his glass slightly. "You saved a $40 million investment." "Anyone would have noticed," Emily demurred. "No," William said firmly. "They wouldn't. I didn't. My entire team didn't." He moved to the window, his silhouette outlined against the city lights. "It's like having emotional sonar," he remarked. "You detect what's beneath the surface." Emily smiled slightly. "I think it's simpler than that. I'm just not blinded by status or power dynamics. I see people as people is." "That how you see me?" William asked unexpectedly, turning to face her. The question hung in the air between them, more personal than their usual exchanges. Emily considered her answer carefully. She thought about the man she'd first met, cold, demanding, isolated, and the person she'd come to know in quiet evening conversations. The leader who remembered every detail of his business but forgot to eat lunch. The strategic genius who could solve complex financial problems but struggled with basic human connection. "I see someone who built walls to protect what matters to him," she finally said. "But walls that keep threats out also keep connection at a distance." William's expression shifted, a brief flicker of vulnerability crossing his face before disappearing again. He turned back to the window, shoulders straight, composure regained. For once, William Cross had no response. Autumn turned to winter. Emily had been at Westbridge for nearly 6 months when rumors of a potential buyout began circulating. Meridian Global, a multinational conglomerate with a reputation for aggressive acquisitions and even more aggressive cost-cutting, had approached with an offer significantly above market value. The executive floor buzzed with excitement. Board members calculated potential payouts, some already shopping for vacation homes in the Hamptons or Aspen. Department heads speculated about their positions in the new structure, polishing resumes and practicing self-important speeches about synergy and alignment. Emily noticed how the energy changed throughout the building. In the cafeteria, lower-level employees huddled together, voices hushed, eyes worried. The IT department worked late into the night, backing up personal files. The maintenance staff, largely invisible to executives, exchanged knowing glances. They'd been through acquisitions before and knew they'd be the first casualties of efficiency measures. Only William seemed troubled, though he hid it well from everyone except Emily. She saw the tension in his jaw during board presentations, noticed how he lingered in the research department one evening, watching young analysts collaborate with Guy. An almost wistful expression. "Meridian wants our client portfolio and market position," he told her late one night. They'll dismantle most departments within a year. Half our staff will be redundant. But the board supports the sale, unanimously. William's expression was grim. The numbers make sense and the share price would jump 30%. Our investors would be thrilled. And you? William was silent for a long moment. I've spent 8 years rebuilding this company, creating something with integrity. Meridian will strip it for parts, and he rubbed his temples. But my responsibility is to shareholder value, not sentiment. Emily watched him struggle with the decision she knew he'd already made. The logical choice, the fiscally responsible choice, the choice that erased 8 years of work and hundreds of livelihoods. That evening, after William left, Emily remained at her desk, unable to leave. She walked the empty halls of Westbridge, trailing her fingers along the walls. In the research department, abandoned coffee cups sat beside notebooks filled with innovative ideas that might never be developed. In the marketing division, a wall displayed photos of company events, holiday parties, charity fundraisers, team-building retreats, smiling faces of people who didn't yet know their futures were being decided. Emily paused at a large framed photograph near the elevator. It showed William 8 years ago, cutting the ribbon on this building. He looked younger, happier, his eyes bright with ambition and something else. Belief. Belief in what he was building. 2 days later, William called a company-wide gathering to announce the acquisition. Champagne was ordered, press releases drafted. Meridian executives were flying in for the formal announcement. The stock options that had seemed worthless when Emily started would soon be worth enough to cover her rent for a year. She should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt hollow. Emily stood at the back of the crowded atrium as William took the stage. His expression was composed, professional, the face he showed the world. But Emily saw the tension in his shoulders, the slight tightness around his eyes. "Thank you all for coming today," he began. "As you may have heard, Westbridge Holdings has received an acquisition offer from Meridian Global." As he outlined the business case, Emily felt something shift inside her. This man who had valued her honesty, who had learned to see beyond numbers to the human elements of business, he was surrendering to pure calculation. Without planning to, Emily found herself moving forward through the crowd. Her heart pounded. Her introverted nature screamed at her to retreat, to remain invisible as always. But something stronger propelled her forward. When William paused between sentences, Emily felt a strange sensation rise within her. A tightness in her throat, a quickening of her pulse. A voice inside her, one she'd spent years silencing, urging her to speak. Without conscious decision, Emily raised her hand. The gesture was so unexpected, this quiet woman suddenly visible, that William stopped mid-sentence. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Emily Carter, the shadow who took notes in corners and never spoke at meetings, was drawing attention to herself. "Emily!" William's voice carried a note of genuine surprise. "Did you have something to add?" Hundreds of eyes turned toward her. Emily felt her chest tighten with anxiety. Her palms grew slick with sweat. The familiar urge to disappear, to apologize, to retreat to safety washed over her. For a moment, she nearly succumbed to it. Then she thought of the photograph of William cutting the ribbon, of the research team's abandoned coffee cups, of the maintenance staff's knowing glances, of William's confession that night. "I've spent 8 years rebuilding this company, creating something with integrity." With trembling fingers, Emily reached into her pocket and withdrew the small notebook she'd carried since her first day. The pages were worn from constant use, filled with her neat handwriting, observations, reflections, the human details others overlooked. "On my 3rd day here," she began, voice barely audible, "I wrote something to myself." She unfolded a page, hands trembling slightly. "I wrote, 'Westbridge isn't just a company. It's Mark from security who walks elderly clients to their cars when it rains. It's the development team that stayed overnight during the system crash. It's the cleaning staff who know everyone's names and birthdays.'" The room was utterly silent. Emily continued, voice growing steadier. "It's the research team whose innovations have improved financial access for thousands. It's the community outreach program that's funded education for over 200 students." She looked directly at William. "We're not just a portfolio or a market position. We're people who have built something meaningful together." Emily closed her notebook. "I apologize for the interruption, but before we sell what we've built, I thought someone should remember why we built it." She turned and walked back through the stunned crowd, certain she'd just ended her career at Westbridge. She gathered her belongings, left the building, and spent the night staring at her apartment ceiling, wondering how quickly she could find another job. Her phone rang at 6 a.m. William's number. "Come to the office. Now." Emily entered William's office expecting to be fired. Instead, she found him looking more energized than she'd seen in months. "I cancelled the Meridian deal." Emily stared at him. "You... what?" "Called their CEO at midnight. Withdrew. From negotiations." A rare smile crossed his face. "The board is furious. Our stock will take a hit when markets open." He shrugged. "They'll recover." "But why would you?" "Because you were right." William stood, pacing the office. "I built Westbridge to be different, to create value beyond quarterly returns. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that." He stopped, facing her. "You reminded me." Emily struggled to absorb what was happening. "The board will fight this decision." "Let them. I still hold controlling interest." William sat on the edge of his desk. "But I'll need help convincing them we can create more value independently than through acquisition." "What are you suggesting? A new position? Director of Internal Culture and Human Capital?" William handed her a document outlining responsibilities and compensation that made her eyes widen. "You'll report directly to me, but represent the perspective of every level of this company in executive decisions." Emily stared at the paper. "You want me to be the voice of your employees? I can barely speak in meetings." "You found your voice yesterday when it mattered." William's expression softened. "You see people clearly, Emily. You understand what motivates them, what they need to thrive. That perspective has been missing from our leadership. I don't have an MBA, no management experience. You have something rarer, the ability to bridge worlds, between leadership and staff or between strategy and humanity." He smiled slightly. "You applied for the wrong job and ended up exactly where you belong." That afternoon, William sent a company-wide email. "Yesterday I was reminded that Westbridge's true value isn't measured solely on balance sheets. I've declined Meridian's acquisition offer because our independent future holds greater potential. Not just financially, but as a community with shared purpose. To ensure we maintain this perspective, I've appointed Emily Carter as our new Director of Internal Culture and Human Capital. Many of you haven't met Emily, as she prefers listening to speaking. But she has been my most trusted advisor for months, and her insight into what makes Westbridge special will now help guide our path forward. I once believed that emotion and business decisions should remain separate. I was wrong. Our greatest strength comes from balancing clear-eyed analysis with genuine human connection. Emily will help us maintain that balance. Sometimes the wrong door leads to exactly the right place." 6 months later, Westbridge's innovative approach to balancing human capital and financial strategy had attracted attention across the industry. Their stock had not only recovered, but surpassed previous highs. Employee retention had improved dramatically. The research team had launched 2 groundbreaking fintech tools. The marketing department had won awards for their authenticity-focused campaign, and the maintenance staff had received comprehensive benefits packages previously. Reserved for executives, Emily, still quiet by nature, had found her voice when it mattered. She'd established monthly open forums where employees from every level could share concerns directly with leadership. She'd implemented a human impact assessment for all major business decisions. And she'd created a mentorship program pairing executives with entry-level employees, breaking down the hierarchical barriers that had once defined Westbridge culture. William, once known as the Glacier, was now featured in business magazines for his revolutionary leadership approach that balanced profit with people. The true innovation at Westbridge, he always told journalists, came from learning to listen to the quietest voice in the room. In her new office, much smaller than William's at her insistence, Emily kept her notebook of observations. But beside it now sat a sketchbook where she had begun illustrating again, capturing the human stories that made Westbridge unique. The receptionist who remembered everyone's coffee order, the janitor who left encouraging notes on employees' desks, the IT specialist who stayed overnight during system updates, bringing his guitar to pass the time. William stopped by her office one evening as she was drawing. Another late night, Emily smiled. Just finishing something. She turned, her sketchbook toward him. It showed two figures, one tall and imposing, one smaller and unassuming, standing together at a crossroads facing forward. "What's it called?" William asked. Emily considered for a moment. "The Wrong Door," she answered, "or maybe the right place." Sometimes our greatest strengths hide in what the world considers weaknesses. Emily's quiet nature and observation skills, once barriers to advancement, became the foundation of her success. William's logical approach, once disconnected from human impact, found balance through unexpected connection. On the one-year anniversary of Emily's promotion, William hosted a small celebration in his office. Present were the executives who had once dismissed her, now eager to share ideas about improving workplace culture. Emily, still uncomfortable with attention, stood near the window, watching the interactions with her characteristic quiet focus. William joined her, away from the crowd. "I've been meaning to ask you something," he said softly. "That day when you spoke up about the acquisition, what gave you the courage?" Emily considered the question. I finally realized that having a quiet voice doesn't mean having nothing important to say." She smiled slightly. "And I remembered something my mother told me when I was young. Sometimes the world doesn't need another person shouting. Sometimes it needs someone brave enough to whisper the truth." William nodded thoughtfully. "Well, your whisper changed the course of an entire company." Outside the window, New Jersey sprawled before them, the same city where Emily had once felt so out of place. Now she saw it differently, not as a landscape of competition and performance, but as a constellation of human stories waiting to be understood. The shy girl who applied for the wrong job discovered that being herself, authentically, unapologetically, was exactly what the right workplace needed. And the CEO who had forgotten the human side of business remembered that the strongest companies aren't just built on strategies and assets, but on people who bring their whole hearts to work. Perhaps there are no wrong doors, only unexpected journeys to where we're meant to be all along. And perhaps the most powerful voices aren't always the loudest, but the ones that speak with courage and conviction when it matters most. Thank you for joining us for Emily's remarkable journey from accidental applicant to influential leader. Her story reminds us that sometimes our greatest perceived weaknesses, being quiet, observant, or different, can become our most powerful strengths when we find the courage to be authentically ourselves. Has there been a moment in your life when a wrong door led you to exactly where you needed to be? We'd love to hear your story in the comments below. If Emily's journey resonated with you, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to our channel for more inspiring stories that celebrate the quiet strength in all of us. Remember, the most powerful voice isn't always the loudest. It's the one that speaks truth when it matters most.